We've got another member of the team here with us this morning. Roger Wann is beef side of American Breeders' Service. And at one time, I guess, Roger, you had a district that ran pretty much from the southeastern United States, Florida, to all the way to Kansas. And over the years, Roger's seen a lot of different outfits and different ways of doing things. He's pretty much confined now to parts of Texas and Oklahoma.
Still Kansas.
And Kansas, yes, sir. And so, just tell us a little bit about what you've seen over the years with regard to fertility and management and how things have changed. So,
Yeah, managing reproduction has been my main focus of interest my whole career at ABS, which started June 1 of '88. So this June 1 will be 33 years. Hard to believe that's gone by. After my days at Oklahoma State, I did get a master's degree in reproductive physiology from Texas A&M, and it's always been the fun part of my career is to try to set a plan in place to manage reproduction at the ranch level, whether it's seed stock operations or commercial operations. So the benefits of getting cattle to calve early in a tight time frame have always been obvious. We didn't always have the tools that we have today to manage that, though. And I think our synchronization tools have gotten so much better in recent years, and I expect that they're going to get better yet in upcoming years. So the first tool and the most basic tool of reproductive management is pregnancy determination, just to see where you are. And then that always has to play a role, as sophisticated as you might want to get in synchronization and artificial insemination and genetic selection. Still, pregnancy testing has to play a role to continue to evaluate where you are. So my goal is always to try to help people not only shorten their breeding and calving seasons, but to manage the distribution of those pregnancies early in the calving season. And I think that's kind of become the goal here with the Haley family. They still have a 90-day breeding season, natural service with bulls, but with the pregnancy determination strategy that they employ, they want to find those cows that became pregnant in the last 30 days of that calving season. And when the opportunity presents itself, they'll market those cows and replace those cows with bred heifers that are managed to calve early, and continuing to put the pressure on females that have the ability to conceive early and stay in the front end of the calving season. So many benefits to that, from marketing, from pounds of beef production, but at the ranch level, that pays great benefits.
so Jeff mentioned that they keep all the heifers, like you just said, and so they'll keep those heifers till they're yearlings at pregnancy testing.
Right.
So keeping that many heifers
Right.
for a little bit longer usually means you got to plan for grass and you got to
Right.
plan for feed.
Right.
But maybe tell a little bit about how you make that up on the back end on
Right.
the market in July and August
Right.
and all that kind of
Right.
stuff.
So as always, when you put extra pressure on a population of cattle, there's going to be cattle that fall out that can't take the pressure, and that's just part of the plan. So you breed more heifers than you need, and there's a variety of strategies there. But here that strategy has been breed more heifers than you need, have a 45-day breeding season. Then with early ultrasound pregnancy determination, those heifers that conceived in that last cycle of those 45 days, they're available for sale because they are surplus heifers. The focus is on the heifers that were able to conceive either AI or the first service bulls. Those heifers conceive in the first 30 days of the breeding season. That's the golden heifers that have the ability to stay in the herd for many years. So the heifers that conceived a little later, there's nothing wrong with those heifers. They just don't quite fit the strategy here. So with the opportunity if the opportunity should come along to market those heifers, they're sure available for that. The open heifers, it takes a little more grass, it takes more effort, more energy to get them through a breeding season. You could have sold more heifers as feeder heifers the fall before, but you end up with open 750, 800 pound heifers that you can market in a July or August market, which is always the best time to sell those big yearling heifers, because the folks that are buying them know that they can buy those heifers against a board that would where they would finish in hopefully February or March at the highest peak of the fed cattle market. So there's a lot of up cycles in both the reproductive management and the management and the marketing of those big open heifers.
And so, talking about synchronization in general, one of the things that synchronization will do is sort of an indirect selection for fertility. Most of the time, heifers have to be cycling naturally to respond to estrus synchronization drugs, or very close to it. And so, just by putting them in a program and putting them on the estrus synchronization regimen, if they're already cycling, that automatically tells you if they come into heat and conceive either off of AI or the first service after the cleanup bull that they were responding to those drugs. And so they group up very nicely just off the response to estrus synchronization. And it's a nice way to go out and just say, yeah, you're kind of like you do with the heifers on response to pregnancy on the backside of that. Those that got pregnant from the bull were using that as a selection for fertility on the back end, using estrus synchronization on the front end for response to the drugs. And I think we saw a nice example of that yesterday out in the pasture with all those little calves that looked all alike, and that was a direct result of all that.
For folks considering entering into AI for the first time, I think some things that warrant some thought process is how well is your reproduction being managed so far. I think AI and estrus synchronization does a great job of taking advantage of good management skills that are already in place. If your breeding season's a little long, if your heifers are kind of underdeveloped, it might be a plan for down the road. And certainly I've gone and looked at heifers that were underdeveloped, that were obviously the result of a fairly long calving season, so there was quite a variation in size and apparent age, and I didn't think those heifers would lend themselves very well to, let's try to get them all pregnant on the same day. So sometimes working some management in place for heifer development, heifer selection, and some preg check-in and repro management on the cow herd for a year or even 2 years prior to AI. Just recently I was involved in a pretty good sized heifer project in south central Oklahoma, and that fella had been employing a 45-day breeding season on heifers for the last several years, natural service. A 75-day breeding season on his cow herd, natural service. I looked at those heifers and they were all about the same size. Apparently you would think that they would all be about the same age. I already knew that a fair amount of repro pressure had been applied to this cow herd, so I was just kind of smiling a little bit like, oh yeah, this one is good to go. So the management leading up to AI is very important. Just throwing synchronization at a random group of cattle and hoping for good results is probably not a good plan.